So my name is Henrik Passmark. I'm from Sweden.
How did you learn you had cognitive difficulties?
To some extent, I've always known. I think I understood that parts of my mind, my perception, did not work the same way as for others. I've always had a horribly poor sense of direction, a horribly poor sense of where things are in three-dimensional space. The first time I was actually confronted by it in a very real sense was um, when I attempted, or rather pre-attempted, to take a driver's license. That's kind of, you realize that, or rather, I realized that I could not keep up with stuff that happened in traffic, not even on a simulator level. Actually, ask the psychologist to evaluate these things. That's actually the point where I got them diagnosed. But before that, it had been a suspicion and a feeling at best.
How did you feel after the diagnosis?
Relieved, very relieved. I felt that finally, I had an answer to why certain things was always so difficult. Someone like me, when you realize you don't interpret visual information the same way that people normally do, that suddenly made sense.
How do cognitive difficulties affect your day to day life?
To most people, I come off as rather high functioning, but what's basically difficult for me is organizing. So, for example, planning trips, that is an absolute nightmare. Um, Packing bags, uh, sometimes actually, you know, gives me literal panic because I feel like I have no control over what happens at all unless I get help. I have trouble with what most people would call everyday logistics and also sense of direction. I cannot really read maps. I was never able to. Uh, and I still cannot look at a still, you know, an image of a map and understand at all how it correlates to 3D space. I have a university degree in a not too simple subject, Master of Medicine. So I mean, most people perceive me as intelligent, and I think it creates a bit of a cognitive dissonance for them when you have this sort of generally quite intelligent person, and I'm not able to tie a knot, for example. And it has nothing to do with lack of motorics. It's just that I cannot wrap my head around the perceptual coordination required to tie a knot. Um, the cognitive difficulties, and the shape they take, the things they affect, that's pound for pound a much bigger issue, although that could change with increasing age. That's a much bigger issue than the physiological, visible things you can see, um, with someone with my type of CP. And I think that's easy to forget.
What type of coping mechanisms do you have?
First of all, I have assistants. Part of their job is to help me with most of these things. They are essentially secretaries, in most advanced contexts. So they help me keep track of meetings. They help me set my agenda, and they assist me in planning my everyday work and everyday being. Because the coping mechanisms never work. They always, I mean, to be honest, I think most of the coping mechanisms, that I have received from various psychologists and stuff, they are a bit flawed. They often assume that you're very good at with using visual systems. They assume that you can take notes. They assume all these things, but I can't. So they're not really that useful.
How well are cognitive difficulties recognized among professionals?
It's better now, but I don't think it's good enough. And it's a major problem long term, I think, because society puts ever higher demand on self organization skills, um, self leadership, self management. And these are difficult when you. I think what I would like doctors to know, first, at least the way I understand it, it's quite common. Um, at least I think to the point that it's more common than not. A good thing would be to try to catch these things early. Uh, I was 20 before I actually had this confirmed and treated as as a medical as a component of my medical condition. Um, I think now you can find it earlier, um, and that's good. It's important to understand that this is not a crippling condition. It's something you might have to struggle with, and to my mind, you should also be entitled to certain help and support, just the way that I've been fortunate enough to have access to. Um, but that doesn't mean you can't have a job or go to school or have a relationship or anything like that. It presents certain difficulties, but they are manageable. And it's important for like healthcare professionals to tell people that.